Stoicism, the philosophy of inner strength. Have you ever wondered how to deal with pain, loss, injustice, fear, and even death without losing inner peace? More than 2,000 years ago, a philosophy emerged to answer exactly that. It was born in Athens, crossed Rome, influenced emperors, slaves, warriors, Christians, and even modern psychologists. It is Stoicism, a way of life that teaches we cannot control the world, but we can control ourselves. In this video, you will discover where and how this philosophy originated, who its great masters were, what it truly preached, how it confronted Christianity, and above all, why Stoicism is still sought after today as a guide to living with balance amidst chaos. Get ready for a journey of wisdom and inner strength. Where and how it originated. The setting is ancient Greece, around 300 BC. Athens, the pulsating heart of philosophy. Socrates had already died almost a century ago. Plato had founded the academy. Aristotle had taught at his school called the Lyceum. It was a time when ideas were more powerful than swords. It was in this environment that a man from afar arrived, Zeno of Citium, a Phoenician merchant who lost everything in a shipwreck. Imagine the scene. His ship sank, his riches disappeared, he was left with nothing but the clothes on his back. Instead of despair, this shipwreck was the beginning of his enlightenment. They say that upon arriving in Athens, Zeno entered a bookstore and found a text about Socrates. Delighted, he asked the bookseller, "Where can I find men like this?" And the bookseller pointed to Crates, a cynical philosopher passing by on the street. From then on, Zeno immersed himself in the study of philosophy. He spent years learning, reflecting, until he began to teach on his own. But he did not want to found a closed school like Plato or Aristotle. He preferred to teach in an open space, the Stoa Poikile, a public colonnade decorated with paintings. There, anyone could hear. Slaves, merchants, soldiers, nobles. Philosophy was in the streets, and thus, Stoicism was born from the word stoa, the portico where he taught. And think about it, a philosophy that already started accessible to everyone, without walls, without doors, without privileges. Who were their followers? Stoicism was not limited to intellectuals. It won over people from all social levels. Epictetus, for example, was a slave. Born in Hierapolis, he spent his life in servitude until he gained his freedom. Despite the chains, his mind was free. He taught that no one can imprison a spirit that has found serenity. His phrase still echoes today. It is not things that disturb us, but the opinion we have of them. Your phrase still resonates today. It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Seneca, on the other hand, was a powerful advisor in Rome, tutor to Emperor Nero. He wrote letters and treatises on how to live well, even surrounded by luxury and danger. He preached moderation but lived among palaces. His life was a living contradiction, but his words continue to inspire. Marcus Aurelius. Perhaps the most famous example was a Roman emperor, commander of armies, ruler of the largest empire of the time. Even with absolute power, he faced wars, epidemics, and betrayals. And amidst all this, he wrote in his diary, which was not for others, but for himself. In that diary, now known as Meditations, he reminded himself, "If it is beyond your control, do not be disturbed. What depends on you is your mind. What depends on you is your mind." See the strength of this. Slaves, politicians, and emperors found the same peace in Stoicism, what he preached. The heart of Stoicism lies in a simple yet powerful idea. We do not control the world, but we control our reaction to it. Everything comes down to distinguishing between what is within our power and what is not. Epictetus used to say, "It is in your control, your opinions, your desires, your actions. It is not under your control, the body, wealth, fame, the opinions of others, fate." How many times have you suffered for something you couldn't control? For someone who didn't value you? For an inevitable loss? For an unexpected illness? The Stoics said, accept what is beyond your control. Focus only on what can be changed. The central virtues of Stoicism were four. Wisdom. Recognizing what depends on us. Courage. Facing pain and fear without bending. Justice. Acting correctly with others. Temperance. Controlling passions and desires. They summarize life in 3 magic words: good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. The confrontation with Christianity. At the beginning of the Christian era, Rome was also a Stoic land. Many Romans read Seneca, followed Epictetus, admired Marcus Aurelius. When Christianity emerged, there were similarities and clashes. Similarities. Both valued inner discipline. Both saw pain as an opportunity for growth. Both preached detachment from wealth. Differences. Christianity offered salvation through faith in Christ by divine grace. Stoicism offered serenity through reason and self-control. For the Christian, hope was in God. For the Stoic, it was in the trained mind. Even so, many early Christians admired the Stoics. Some martyrs faced death with a serenity reminiscent of Epictetus. But over time, Christianity became the dominant faith, and Stoicism faded as an organized school. Even so, it never disappeared. Stoicism today. You may not realize it, but Stoicism breathes in the modern world. In psychology, especially in cognitive behavioral therapy, which teaches changing thoughts to change emotions. In sports, when athletes repeat, control what you can, ignore the rest. In business, when leaders talk about resilience. In personal crises, when someone says, I can't change what happened, but I can change how I react. This is pure Stoicism, even if it's not called that. Books like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius or The Enchiridion by Epictetus are still read today by millions. In the era of anxiety and uncertainty, the message of the Stoics is like a beacon. Stoic reflections. Stoicism is not an invitation to pessimism. It is not coldness. It's freedom. When the Stoic accepts death, it is not because they despise life, but because they value every moment. When he accepts pain, it is not because he likes it, but because he knows it is inevitable and can teach. When you let go of fame, it's not because you don't like recognition, but because you know it's not under your control. Epictetus said, when something happens, do not ask, why is this happening to me? But rather, how can I respond to this with virtue? Epictetus said, when something happens, do not ask, why is this happening to me? But rather, how can I react to this with virtue? And I ask you now, when something unexpected happens to you, what has been your reaction? Cinematic closure Stoicism was born in Athens, walked the streets of Rome, and was written by slaves, senators, and emperors. It was persecuted, forgotten, rediscovered, but it never died. Because your message is eternal, we do not control the world, but we can control ourselves. Because your message is eternal, we do not control the world, but we can control ourselves. In a time of anxiety, social media, political and existential crises, Stoicism is more relevant than ever. It invites us to cultivate wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. And I leave you with this final question. If you truly believe that the only things you control are your thoughts, your words, and your actions, how would you live from today onward? If this reflection touched you, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share. Because just like the Stoics, we can learn to be beacons of balance amidst chaos.